there was an attack with a Subway sandwich last night in D.C. And it was a white guy, we're now told, who worked at the Department of Justice until this morning when he was fired by Pam Bondi, per Pam Bondi. She's told us that piece of it. But we saw this tape go viral on X with this guy behaving like a complete ass in the face of the federal law enforcement officers who are standing there minding their own business, just keeping an eye on things to make sure things are safe. For the listening audience, we're going to play it. You see the man jumping up, like just jumping, like he's on a pogo stick in front of these cops. And then out of nowhere, he takes his Subway sandwich and whips it at one of the officers. The man is wearing a pink polo shirt and tight little gray shorts. He whips it at the officer and then takes off. And now the officers chase him, and they did get him. And then we heard from Jeanine Pirro, who is, look at this slow-mo now. We've slow-moed he really whips it at him. It hits him in like the collarbone on the left side, and immediately they give chase. So then we hear from Jeanine Pirro, who's honestly, there's a new sheriff in town down there. Do not F with Judge Jeanine. Here's Jeanine weighing in on this.
And the president's message to the criminals was, if you spit, we hit. Well, we didn't quite do that the other night when an individual went up to one of the federal law enforcement officers and started jumping up and down, screaming at him, berating him, yelling at him. And then he took a Subway sandwich about this big and took it and threw it at the officer. He thought it was funny. Well, he doesn't think it's funny today because we charged him with a felony, assault on a police officer. And we're going to back the police to the hilt. So there. Stick your Subway sandwich somewhere else.
By the way, not for nothing, but here's sound from the Subway sandwich attack incident. You can hear the man calling the cops a fascist. He's calling them fascists. Listen.
Fascists in our city.
They're what?
You see these fascists right here in our
fascists?
City? Fuck you. Fuck you, fascists.
Your fucking way! You bitch! Motherfucker!
I love the guy videotaping.
Oh! Oh! It's fucking done! It's fucking done!
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The guy whipping the Subway sandwich appears to me like he is on something. I like, he's too animated. He's got too much energy. He's doing the whole knee bend, Stu. I mean, when you do the knee bend when you are genuinely mad, like you're bending the knees, like you fascist, the knee bend, you mean business. And now, unfortunately for him, so does Judge Jeanine.
Yeah. I have to say, look, it's of course what he did is awfully awful and wrong. I mean, the whole video is hilarious to watch, though. I have to admit, it's just an amazing video. No one was hurt, and this, and luckily, this guy and his career is hurt, and his reputation is hurt as well, and he may be going to prison for a while, and that's all really, really positive, because when you act that way, that's exactly what should happen to you. That's a terrible way to act, and a ridiculous thing. The way he ran away too was he was really pacing himself as if he was going to run for like 4 or 5 miles there. I don't understand the approach. I don't understand the approach of these people, though. These are law enforcement officials, and they're doing their job. Whether you like the job or not, they're doing it. They're doing it to the best of their ability, and they're trying to protect you in a city that is a horror show, frankly, and has been for a really long time. They tried this whole thing of saying, oh well, crime is down by 35%. There's all sorts of problems with those numbers. I'm sure you covered all that. But down to what? I think what Trump has tried to say here is that what you're trying to tell me is acceptable is not acceptable. This is an emergency situation. It's just been a long brewing one. And despite the fact that it might be slightly better than 2023, the peak of the last 30 years, does not make me feel any better about it. And having someone like Jeanine Pirro in charge is going to make a big difference. When she was talked about in this room. Yeah, yeah. When she was talked about in this role, the media kept saying like the same thing they did, with Pete Hegseth and Dan Bongino and so many others. Oh, well, Fox News personality gets this job. How could they give this job to Fox News personality? Jeanine Pirro is not just a Fox News personality. She became a Fox News personality because of her background in law enforcement. My uncle was a homicide detective who in Westchester County worked under Jeanine Pirro long before I had any idea who she was. He would praise her like nobody's business because of how what a great job she did, how tough she was on the job, how she didn't put up with nonsense. She cared about protecting the people of her community. And that is something that I feel like we have lost in Washington, D.C. I think we all realize that if you put enough police officers in these areas, something like 14% of the murders happens in a 10-block radius in Washington, D.C. You put a bunch of officers in that area, you're going to be able to stop a lot of that crime. What our government has been saying for a very long time about D.C. is we don't care enough. We don't care enough to do anything about it. And Donald Trump is stepping in and doing something. Jeanine Pirro's doing something. And whether that's just, whether it's taking care of something really serious like a murder or an attempted murder with a Subway sandwich with a tuna delight, there has to be a line there. And I suppose a foot long is where that line's being drawn.
Jeanine Pirro is one of the first people I interviewed as an anchor. I was substitute anchor at Fox News. They hired me in 2004, and I didn't get to substitute anchor, I think, for another couple years. And I went up to New York, and she was running for New York State Attorney General. And she came on, and I interviewed her. She's just a badass. I mean, like back then, we talked about all the stuff she had done as Westchester County DA. It's just ridiculous that they want to diminish her. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a Fox News host. Obviously, that's what I believe. But she's so much more than that. I mean, truly, like I was a Fox News host, anchor for many, many years, 14 plus years. And you know what? I had a career as a lawyer for almost 10 years prior to that. So many of us bring different things into our backgrounds, from our backgrounds into our hosting or anchoring abilities. Hegseth, Bongino, Pirro, and yours truly among them. Here's what Pam Bondi wrote. If you touch any law enforcement officer, we will come after you. I just learned that this defendant worked at the DOJ. No longer. Not only is he fired, he's been charged with a felony. This is an example of the deep state we have been up against for 7 months as we work to refocus DOJ. You will not work in this administration while disrespecting our government and law enforcement. I think she's really onto something there. This is an example of the deep state we've been up against for 7 months as we work to refocus DOJ. I know this is happening at FBI, at the Pentagon, and elsewhere in the government. They really are working against some of the leaders. I think it's happening at FDA. Like the Trump administration is real, and he's assigned really and nominated and had confirmed really important department heads. But that doesn't mean that they can, with a magic wand, change these organizations, which in large part, and by the way, DNI, which in large part not only don't support them, but actively oppose them and are working against them. How do you think that guy was handling any directive whatsoever issued by Pam Bondi or Todd Blanche, that DOJ employee?
Yeah, and we absolutely with certainty know that a lot of people inside of these organizations are working against Donald Trump, at least in the first term, mainly because they bragged about it to author after author after author in their tell-all books afterwards. They wanted credit for it. They wanted to be greeted as heroes and liberators from Donald Trump. And, this, I think, really, it's a bizarre incident. And you're watching a guy throw a sandwich at another human being and then try to run away at medium pace. It's a fascinating thing. But what it really highlights when you think about it is how deep this issue is. It's not like they didn't come into office thinking about getting rid of people like this guy, right? The Trump administration ran on saying what we're going to do is drain the swamp. That was the first term. And I think he's a lot more serious about it here in the second term. He really wanted to make sure they got rid of those people. He put people in charge who were, attack dogs to make sure that they could go after the people who were doing this type of thing. And now we've gone through a whole period of DOJ. We've gone through a whole period of widespread firing. Yeah. They got rid of a lot of these people. And yet a guy who is so psychotic that he will bend his knees as he's screaming as hard as he can into the face of an officer and then, throw a sandwich at his chest. That guy was still employed as of yesterday. Like, he was still there.
Have you ever thrown a sandwich in anger, Stu Burguiere? Ever?
I never. Only into my mouth, Megyn. And that usually is more hunger than anything else.
Or like
it's just
depression or anxiety. Sometimes when my kids are playing tennis, like in a match, I stress eat. I've got to have like a bag of potato chips. I don't know. I've stress eaten with a sandwich before. I don't think I've ever stress felonized anyone.
No. First of all, don't attack people with sandwiches. Secondly, they're sandwiches. They're delicious. You don't want to get rid of them. You shouldn't waste them. So don't. I mean, that poor sandwich is now sitting on the ground. Luckily, it's DC. About 400 rats ate it about 10 seconds after that video ended. So at least someone was
is it just
fed.
Me? I love the color commentary. I kind of love the guy who's like, motherfucker!
Yeah. It is amazing. I kind of want him to, I don't know, is there an opening at the NFL to just kind of call games on the sidelines? I kind of want to get his commentary on everything I'm watching.
So what do we think the effect of the sparring between President Donald Trump and the Fed is going to be? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time? Do we trust in that? Or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown as they slow roll any of their moves as they worry about his tariffs? And what exactly does all of this mean for your savings? You might want to consider diversifying right about now with gold through Birch Gold Group. For decades, gold has been viewed as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, and high inflation. And Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you have an IRA or old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or just buy some gold to keep it in your safe. First, get educated. Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. Just text MK to the number 989898. Again, text MK to 989898, and you'll start the process of just getting the 411 on what it means to own gold. Consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. So if the Fed cannot stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can stay ahead of the curve for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.